It's the kind of moment that no PR team can clean up. When the cameras are rolling, the crowd is roaring, and a talk show host forgets that the person sitting across from her isn't just another celebrity. He's a legend. What happens when Hollywood royalty is met with disrespect on live television? When ego clashes with experience? In less than a minute, Jennifer Hudson managed to derail her own show and ignite one of the most uncomfortable interviews daytime TV has ever seen. Before we begin, tell us, where are you watching from? Also subscribe. The Jennifer Hudson Show was supposed to be a safe space. Feel-good TV for casual afternoons, filled with laughter, music, and lighthearted celebrity chatter. No drama, no controversy. But that illusion shattered the second Denzel Washington took his seat. The audience exploded into applause. People were on their feet. You could feel the weight of his presence. This was Denzel Washington, a man who doesn't just enter a room, he commands it. 2 Academy Awards, countless iconic roles, and decades of respect earned through sheer talent and hard work. When he speaks, people listen. Denzel greeted the crowd with a calm smile, shaking hands, his charm effortless. Jennifer at first matched his energy. Warm, polite, professional. "It's such an honor to have you here," she said. Denzel nodded, that familiar mix of humility and quiet authority in his voice. "Thank you for having me. Glad to be here." For a moment, everything felt normal. She asked about his upcoming movie, a story about redemption and second chances, and Denzel leaned in, genuinely excited, describing the project like it meant something to him. You could hear the passion in his tone, but just as the conversation started to find its rhythm, Jennifer's demeanor shifted. Her smile stayed, but the sincerity behind it faded. It was as if she was more focused on creating a moment than having a real conversation. Then came the first crack. "You've been in this industry for what? 40 years now?" she asked with a smirk that didn't quite match her words. Denzel chuckled lightly. "Something like that? Yeah, it could have ended there." But she kept going. "Wow, that's crazy. I mean, you've been around forever." The audience laughed nervously, and the kind of laughter that fills a silence no one wants to sit in. Denzel's expression didn't change much, but you could feel the temperature drop. His polite smile tightened ever so slightly. "I've been blessed," he replied smoothly. "A long career, yes, and I'm grateful for it." Instead of backing off, Jennifer doubled down. "Most people would have retired by now," she said with a half laugh that sounded more like a jab than a joke. "Don't you ever think it's time to let the younger generation have their turn?" The studio went quiet. No laughter, no applause, just tension. Denzel shifted in his seat, not angry, just disappointed. You could see him thinking, is this really happening? But he stayed calm. "I love what I do," he said firmly. "I don't plan on stopping anytime soon." Jennifer smiled again, but it wasn't friendly. Right, she said, "but don't you think it's kind of selfish? I mean, there are so many young actors trying to break through, and here you are still taking all the best roles." That word, selfish, hung in the air like smoke. The crowd froze. Even the camera operators hesitated, unsure whether to zoom in or cut to commercial. Denzel leaned back, his eyes locked on hers. "Selfish?" he repeated, slow and deliberate. "That's what you think." Jennifer shrugged like it was no big deal. I'm just saying, you've already done it all. The awards, the legacy. Why not step aside and let someone else shine? It wasn't a question anymore. It was a challenge, and a deeply disrespectful one. You could feel the audience holding its breath. Denzel's patience, legendary as it is, was being tested live on national television. He finally spoke, his tone calm but unshakably firm. "With all due respect, Jennifer," he said, "I've earned my place in this industry. Every role, every film, every moment. I worked for it. Nobody handed me anything. I don't take opportunities away from anyone. I create them." The audience erupted in applause, sensing the shift. Denzel had drawn a line, but instead of reading the room, Jennifer rolled her eyes on her own show at Denzel Washington. That single gesture said everything. The arrogance, the lack of awareness, the total disregard for who she was talking to. She pressed on, tone dripping with false innocence. "I'm not trying to be rude, I'm just keeping it real. It's 2025. Maybe it's time to let go and give space to the next wave, you know?" Denzel stared at her, silent for a moment that felt eternal. Then he nodded slowly. "You're right about one thing," he said. "It is 2025, and I'm still here, because I've earned the right to be." The room went still. You could have heard a pin drop. Jennifer's smile faltered. Denzel didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His tone carried more authority than any outburst ever could. He adjusted his microphone calmly, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "If respect is too much to ask for, then maybe I shouldn't be here." And with that, Denzel Washington, the man, the legend, stood up. No theatrics, no anger, just quiet power, the kind that shakes a room without saying a word. The audience gasped as he placed his mic on the couch and turned toward the exit. Jennifer's face went pale. "Wait, Denzel, I was just joking," she stammered, her voice cracking. But Denzel didn't stop walking. He paused at the edge of the stage, turned slightly and said, "No, you weren't. You were being disrespectful, and I don't do disrespect." The audience fell completely silent. Some people clapped, hesitant, unsure, while others just watched in stunned disbelief as Denzel Washington walked off the set of the Jennifer Hudson show, leaving behind the wreckage of what was supposed to be a harmless interview. For a few endless seconds, no one knew what to do. The cameras were still rolling, the audience frozen between shock and disbelief. Jennifer Hudson, standing there with her microphone in hand, looked like someone who just realized she'd made the biggest mistake of her career. And she had. Her attempt at a lighthearted jab had spiraled into a public humiliation, and the man she just disrespected wasn't the kind to brush it off for the sake of television. We'll be right back," Jennifer muttered with a forced laugh, waving awkwardly toward the crowd as the applause sign blinked red above their heads. But no one clapped, no one smiled. The silence was heavier than any commercial break could hide. Denzel Washington had just walked off her stage, and that single act said more than 1,000 headlines ever could. Backstage, producers scrambled like firefighters trying to contain a blaze. Camera operators whispered. Assistants darted across the floor. Everyone knew they had just witnessed a career-altering moment. Not for Denzel, but for Jennifer. You could almost hear the collective thought echoing across the set. She went too far. Jennifer, trying to regain control, took a deep breath and forced a smile when the show resumed. "Well," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "that was unexpected." The crowd gave a half-hearted laugh, unsure if it was okay to react. "Sometimes things get a little passionate on this stage," she continued, desperately trying to spin it into something harmless. But the audience wasn't buying it. They had just seen pure arrogance on display, and Denzel's quiet exit had made her look smaller than ever. Within hours, the clip was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, every platform was flooded with the same 30-second moment. Jennifer Hudson smirking, calling Denzel selfish, and the legend standing up, removing his mic, and walking away without a single insult. No shouting, no name-calling, just pure, calm authority. That's what made it hit harder. You don't need to scream when your presence alone demands respect. Comment sections exploded. "How dare she talk to Denzel like that?" One user wrote, "He's earned every bit of success he has." Another comment read, "Jennifer just ended her own reputation in 30 seconds flat." It wasn't just casual viewers either. Industry insiders chimed in. Actors, directors, producers. Quietly at first, then openly. The consensus was clear. Jennifer had crossed a line that you simply don't cross in Hollywood, especially not with someone like Denzel Washington. Meanwhile, reports started trickling out from people who were in the audience that day. They described the tension, the awkward silence, the way everyone could feel the air shift when Jennifer said the word selfish. One audience member posted, "You could see it in Denzel's eyes. He was trying to stay calm, but he looked genuinely hurt." Not angry, hurt. Another said, "The whole energy changed. It wasn't entertainment anymore. It was uncomfortable to watch." And that's what made the whole thing sting even more. Denzel wasn't just reacting to a rude question. He was standing up for something bigger. It wasn't about ego. It was about principle. About not letting anyone, no matter how famous or powerful, disrespect your work, your legacy, or your worth. While the internet debated whose side to take, Denzel didn't say a single word publicly. No statements, no interviews, no posts. Silence. And that silence was deafening, because when Denzel Washington doesn't respond, it's not because he's avoiding the situation. It's because he doesn't need to. His reputation speaks for itself. He's not a man who seeks drama. He's a man who lets his actions do the talking. Jennifer, on the other hand, tried to contain the fallout. The next day, she opened her show with an apology that didn't sound much like one. "I just want to say," she began, her smile thin and forced, "yesterday's interview got a little intense. I have so much love and respect for Mr. Denzel Washington. Things just got a little off track. But the viewers weren't buying it. Her tone wasn't remorseful, it was defensive. She sounded like someone trying to save face, not someone genuinely sorry for what she'd done. Social media shredded her. "That wasn't an apology, that was PR damage control," one viewer commented. "She learned nothing." Others pointed out how disrespecting a veteran like Denzel, a man known for mentoring young actors and promoting black excellence in film, was not just unprofessional, it was hypocritical coming from someone who built her own career on opportunities given by legends before her. The network tried to step in. Behind the scenes, producers were in full-blown crisis mode. They released statements about respect for all guests and valuing professionalism, but by then, the narrative had already solidified. Jennifer Hudson wasn't the humble talk show host anymore. She was the woman who insulted Denzel Washington on her own couch. And the irony, Jennifer had invited Denzel to celebrate his newest film, a story about redemption, humility, and second chances. Instead, she ended up needing those very things herself. Insiders said Denzel's team refused to comment, but several sources close to him said privately that he was disappointed, not angry. One friend reportedly told Variety, "Denzel's not the type to hold grudges, but he doesn't forget disrespect. He's old school. Respect matters." That's the part that Hollywood didn't want to talk about. How rare it is to see someone like Denzel still standing firm in an industry that rewards drama, controversy, and viral chaos. He could have lashed out, turned it into a headline war, or dragged Jennifer publicly. Instead, he did the one thing that made the loudest statement. He walked away, and that's what made people talk. It wasn't the insult that went viral. It was the walk-off, the silence, the power of a man refusing to let his dignity be dragged through the mud for the sake of ratings. Jennifer Hudson had tried to create a moment. She did, just not the one she wanted. She thought poking at Denzel's age and legacy would make her look witty and bold. Instead, it made her look insecure, immature, and out of her depth. You could almost feel her realizing it in real time. The forced laughter fading, the nervous glances to her audience, the panic setting in as the reality of what she'd said started to hit her. By the time Denzel reached the exit, the damage was already done. There was no coming back from that look he gave her before leaving. That quiet, measured, "I expected better from you" stare that said everything without a single word. That's the kind of silence that cuts deeper than any argument ever could. By the next morning, the internet was a battlefield. Clips of the confrontation had flooded every feed, every timeline, every trending page. Denzel walks out on Jennifer Hudson was plastered across entertainment headlines, and millions of viewers replayed the moment over and over, dissecting every gesture, every pause, every flicker of emotion that crossed Denzel's face. But it wasn't just another viral spat. This was something deeper. This was a cultural moment, one that peeled back the curtain on how Hollywood really works. The arrogance of fame, the pressure to go viral, and the erosion of respect all collided in one live broadcast. Public opinion was swift and merciless. Commentators, journalists, and even other celebrities weighed in. Viola Davis tweeted a single line that said it all. "Respect isn't optional." Jamie Foxx reposted the clip with a caption, "That man earned his seat. Period." The support for Denzel was overwhelming. He didn't need to say a word, others said it for him. Meanwhile, Jennifer Hudson's team was in damage control overdrive. PR statements, edited clips, social media silence. Nothing could slow the storm. The clip had taken on a life of its own, detached from spin or context. Every outlet was playing it side by side. Jennifer's smug comment, Denzel's quiet stare, and his calm decision to leave. It was the kind of moment that couldn't be rewritten, couldn't be buried. Inside the studio, tensions were worse than anyone realized. Crew members whispered that producers had begged Jennifer during the break to apologize on air, to stop the bleeding before it got worse. But she had refused. "I'm not the bad guy," she allegedly said. He overreacted. That one statement sealed her fate. Instead of humility, she doubled down, and the industry took note. Agents began quietly advising their clients to hold off on scheduling appearances. A-list guests started canceling upcoming bookings. Nobody wanted to risk being caught in another viral disaster. One unnamed producer from the show told The Hollywood Reporter, "It was like watching a brand implode in real time. Everyone loved Jennifer's show because it was warm and inviting. But after that moment, the tone changed. People didn't trust her anymore." But while Jennifer's brand was crumbling, Denzel's image only grew stronger. His refusal to engage in the chaos made him look even more powerful. The headlines shifted from "Denzel walks out" to "Denzel teaches a masterclass in dignity." News anchors were quoting him like philosophers. His walkout became a symbol, a quiet protest against the entitlement that had infected the industry, and people noticed. Fans started posting old clips of Denzel talking about discipline, work ethic, and respect. "This is who he's always been," one viral post read. "A man of principle in a business that's lost its morals." The comment section was flooded with agreement. Meanwhile, Jennifer tried one more time to repair the damage, this time with a pre-recorded interview for an entertainment magazine. Sitting under soft lighting, wearing a carefully chosen smile, she said, "You know, sometimes interviews don't go the way you plan. I have so much admiration for Mr. Washington. We just had a little misunderstanding." But the tone was wrong again. The words were crafted, not felt. The public saw through it instantly. "That's not an apology," one viewer commented. "That's PR script number 7. Others mocked the interview, posting side-by-side clips of Denzel's silence next to Jennifer's half-hearted excuses. The contrast was brutal. Behind closed doors, the fallout was hitting harder than expected. The show's advertisers began asking questions. Ratings dipped. Executives started holding emergency meetings. What had once been daytime TV's most promising new hit suddenly looked like a liability. The trust was gone, and that's when the conversation started shifting from gossip to principle. Commentators began using the moment as an example of how fame can distort humility. "This wasn't just a bad interview," one cultural critic wrote. "It was a reflection of a generation of entertainers who confuse confidence with disrespect." Denzel represented the old guard, people who earned their place through hard work and craft. Jennifer represented the new wave, a culture obsessed with moments, virality, and shock value. In that room, old school respect collided with modern day ego, and respect won. Even within Hollywood, whispers started spreading. Producers who'd worked with both stars began contrasting their reputations. "Denzel shows up early, knows everyone's name, and treats every crew member like family," one veteran producer said. "He's old school professional. Jennifer's talented, no question, but lately she's been acting like she doesn't need to prove herself anymore. That attitude shows, and it just backfired." But here's what made it sting the most. Jennifer should have known better. She's not some overnight sensation. She came from humble beginnings, earned her fame through grit and determination. She once stood in Denzel's position, struggling for recognition, relying on the respect of others to build her name. Yet somewhere along the way, she forgot the very foundation that built her career. And now, the tables had turned. Denzel's quiet walkout had become a defining moment, not just for him, but for the entire entertainment industry. Every talk show host, every PR manager, every celebrity with a microphone suddenly remembered what happens when ego replaces empathy. The phrase "don't pull a Jennifer" started trending as a warning, a new cultural shorthand for crossing a line you can't uncross. It wasn't cruel mockery, it was a reminder. That's how powerful Denzel's response had been. Meanwhile, people close to Denzel said he wasn't angry, just disappointed. "He's not thinking about revenge or statements," one friend said. "He just believes in respect. You treat people how you want to be treated. That's all. Simple, timeless, and yet somehow so rare." Jennifer's show tried to move on. New guests were booked, new episodes taped, but every conversation online kept circling back to that moment. The clip became the watermark for every conversation about celebrity arrogance. It was being analyzed in communication classes, dissected on podcasts, and quoted in think pieces about humility and self-awareness. The irony was impossible to miss. Jennifer Hudson had wanted to make headlines, to create a buzzworthy interview that would trend for days. She did exactly that, but for all the wrong reasons. Denzel, meanwhile, didn't have to say or post a single word. His silence became the statement, his exit became the headline, and his composure became the lesson. Weeks passed, but the tension didn't fade. The clip still floated across social media like a ghost, reshared, remixed, analyzed from every possible angle. News outlets ran follow-up stories about how the Jennifer Hudson show had quietly lost major sponsors. Rumors began circulating that producers were considering a format change to soften her image. It was the kind of damage that PR spin couldn't fix because the issue wasn't what Jennifer said, it was what she revealed. If you like this video, then subscribe.